I'm your host, Jerry Snyder. This is a little bit of a different episode. It's a recap episode for 2025 and looking forward into 2026. What can we see coming down the pipeline? What are we going to focus on? And the biggest thing to focus on in my mind is our own health, because without our health, without our body, without our physical body working, without our mental capacity working, we have nothing because we wouldn't exist. And so how do we improve or how do we maintain what we've got so that we can get to the end of 2026 and be happy with where we're at and be happy with the journey that we're on and where we're going? And a lot of that is in the recap of 2025, that the focus on longevity drove a lot of what I brought to you through the experts that I had on in the shows for this year. And longevity is not just about living longer, as many of them talked about. It's about how do we have a better quality of life later in life. And it may not be the best quality of life in comparison to other people. And that's one thing that I talked about with several people is that comparing ourselves to other people does not get us where we want to go. Because our life is about our life and what's going on inside of us. And several of the experts that I talked about in different areas talked about the what do we do? Are we testing? Are we talking to people? Are we looking inside ourselves to see what we are doing and how we are interacting with our life, with the food around us, with the exercise around us, with the nature around us, with the environment, with the people around us? How is that impacting us as an individual? Because it's different for each person. And so looking at longevity is not just how do I live longer? It's how do I live longer with the quality of life that I'm going to be happy with? And it's going to allow me to do the things that I want to do as I get older, chronologically older. And so one of the big things, or several of the big things that came out of that in focus on that are simple things that we need to look at in our daily routine of our life. And are we doing the right things? And the overall umbrella for most of us is the same in that sleep is hugely important, because if we don't allow our body and our cells time to recover, time to repair, time to take the things that we've done to it and overcome and be prepared for the next day, the next week, the next whatever it is, the next exposure to something. If we don't give our body time to rest and recover, then we're going into the next day, the next time period, the next whatever it is, weaker, both immune system, physically, mentally, in so many different areas. And so sleep is one of those things. Mindset is another one of those things where how we talk to ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe other things are going to impact us, how they're going to impact us, right? We're going to set out to do something. And if we believe we can finish it or complete it or be successful at it or not, plays a role in our life. The trauma that we've been exposed to. Now, everybody's trauma is different, but the trauma that we have been exposed to and how we've dealt with it impacts how our body improves and moves forward. And I've had multiple experts talk about that. And then we get into mental health. How are we, and trauma is a piece of that, right? Mindset's a piece of that, right? Sleep is a piece of mental health, because if you don't get sleep properly, it's going to impact your mental health because your brain is not able to function as well. And so all of these things key in together, right? The nutrition that we eat, and in some of the things that I've looked at and I'm starting to look at in my own body is, okay, I eat healthy, but is that correct for me? And not that I want to start eating unhealthy, but am I eating the correct healthy foods for what I want my body to do? And the only way to do that, the only way to figure that out is by testing. And when you look at fitness, a lot of people look at fitness, especially when we're younger, and involved in sports, we look at fitness as, okay, we're going to do a few things, we're going to improve a few areas, and then we're going to test. Are we going to run a race? Are we going to lift weights to see what our maximum is? Are we going to, like, what's the thing that we're going to do? And we're going to test to see, have we improved? Have we gotten stronger? Have we gotten faster? Right? We're going to, are we able to run a longer distance or bike a longer distance? Are we able to do something better? And so testing when it comes to nutrition is a big, huge piece of the puzzle. And I've had multiple people talk about how important that is because what's going on inside of you can only be seen if it's tested. Like you can look and see if your skin all of a sudden starts to break out or you start to see different things happen. You start to see weight gain in certain areas of your body. Like there are indicators that something's going on inside. But without testing, we won't see what's truly happening at the cellular level because we can't see it with our own eyes. And so out of sight, out of mind is not the best thing that you want when it comes to your health. And the fitness side, and fitness is not just about always doing, an extreme amount every day, as much as I possibly can in every exercise. I've had coaches that have told me that, when I was younger, that's how you're supposed to do. It's like every day, just give you everything you've got. And there are days where fitness is important to interact with, but it's also important to do it at a level where it's a recovery. It's a recovery fitness exercise or a recovery fitness regime, routine. And so there's ways to do fitness in recovery. And I've talked to yoga experts, I've talked to other types of uh, mindset and retreat experts about how you can go and have a fitness lifestyle, but still get both extreme benefits from hard work and extreme benefits from relaxing and recovery work. And relaxing with fitness is not just going to sit on your couch, right? There's still activity and movement that has to happen. And a big piece of longevity is keeping this body that you have operating as optimally as you possibly can and as it possibly can as you age chronologically on the calendar. And so dealing with all of these things, I've had so many different experts talk about all of these different areas and even into the injury recovery, because a big piece of keeping your body healthy is recovering from injuries and not just allowing the body to be back to, okay, I can do this movement again, but can I do this movement again at the level that I want to do this movement again? And a lot of times, physical therapists or therapists that are helping you with that are they got their hand tied behind their back with the insurance companies only allowing so much, or you know there's not enough time to be able to get all these things done, or maybe you're just not doing the amount that you need to do on your own to help out. And so all of these things are a piece of the puzzle, because if you don't recover from your injuries properly, it's going to cause you setbacks in other areas of your life as you age. And we all know that person, we might be that person, but we all know that person that talks about their injury from their high school days, and okay, that's why I walk differently. It's because of this injury or that injury, or this causes this, or I can't lift my arm over my head anymore because of this old injury I had back when. And the reality is it's usually not the injury that's the cause of that decades later inability. It's the improper recovery from the injury that's the cause of that inability in the future. And that is a big definition, or the big defining statement for what we see in life. The cause is not necessarily the immediate acute issue. It's what did we do afterwards? and what do we do afterwards to improve or not improve that situation? And that can be in so many different ways, right? And like that can be in nutrition. When you're young and you can eat whatever it is and you're not gonna gain weight because your metabolism's fast and you can just eat away and you can eat junk food and it's gonna be fine. And when you do that and you disrupt things in your body and you disrupt things in your gut, and I've talked to experts about several chronic diseases that are starting to take place when we're in our 20s and 30s, but they're not showing up as true defined symptoms until we're in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. And this is Alzheimer's, dementia, not the ones we might think about and see that like, okay, yeah, obesity is one for sure, because if we create bad eating habits, poor eating habits, poor nutrition habits, when we're in our 20s and 30s, our metabolism is faster and we can process through that and maybe we're more active. And then when we become 50, 60, 70 and we still eat that way and we're not moving our body as much and we don't have the metabolism that we did, and so that weight starts to gain. So there's several different things that come into play with looking at longevity, with looking at and the big piece and this is I talk about this, as the reason for the name of my podcast in the first book that I wrote, Confidence Through Health, is because when we're healthy, we have more confidence in every part of life. And it doesn't have to be all consuming health. Because I've seen people that are still struggling with chronic diseases, still struggling with obesity, still struggling with inability to move as much as they want to, but they start improving their health a little bit and they start getting more confidence and they're happy about themselves. Their self-esteem improves. And I've talked to people about this as well and how important that is, how important our self-esteem is to our overall health because it's like a ladder and you go up the ladder and each rung is a different piece of the puzzle and some of those pieces repeat themselves, right? And so you might start with nutrition and nutrition is going to give you more self-esteem and more self-esteem is going to give you a better mindset and a better mindset you're going to talk to yourself better, and when you talk to yourself better you may start to exercise a little, move a little bit more, and once you start to move a little bit more, guess what, you might start eating a little bit better again, and then you might have more self-esteem, and then it's like it's this ladder that you're climbing up, this snowball effect. And we want to just keep climbing, right? We want that snowball to just keep, we want it to be so huge and massive because it just keeps gathering. And when we look at the everything in the big piece of it is our mindset, how we look at failure, how we look at improvement. What is improvement? And where does perfection lie in all of this? And there's so many experts that I've talked to about perfection mindset, and they bring that into no matter what area of their expertise is, whether it's nutrition, fitness, gut health, mental health, mindset, sleep, injury recovery, all of them talk about not being perfect. And it's okay to not be perfect. And it's okay to have failures. And I think that's a big piece of the journey and being able to start and maintain at the beginning is understanding that there's going to be times when I just don't do it right based on what's written down on a piece of paper. I'm just not going to do it right. And that's okay. I've said this so many times that there's not a meal out there that is going to kill you unless it's obviously unless it's poisoned, right? Like, but there's not a meal that you're going to sit down and eat and you're going to keel over and die at that meal because of that meal unless you choke on it. Otherwise, if you die after having that meal, it's a combination, a compilation, it's compounding of all the meals that you've had to that point and all the things that you either did or didn't do. to improve your health that have gotten you to that point. And so looking at the mindset of failure is like, okay, it's okay to have a failure in your nutrition every now and then. It's perfectly okay to have failure in your idea of what you want to do from a movement or fitness or exercise plan. It's okay to have days where it just doesn't go the way you want it to. The the far worse position to be in, both from a longevity standpoint and from a health standpoint, is getting into that spot and staying there and letting that fester and letting in ruminating on the inability to move past it. That will prevent you from getting where you want to go with your health journey. And I fully believe that in the industrialized world, in the civilized world, that we should be living much longer on average than we are. And a big piece of that is we aren't taking care of ourselves and we aren't knowledgeable about what we're putting in our body for us. And so that's where that testing piece comes in. And I've talked to multiple people about the testing piece, right? And so it's the testing. What is going on inside our body? What are we doing to our body? Whether it's nutrition, whether it's, you know, the exercise that we do, it's how we talk to our body, how we talk to ourselves, what our cells retain, looking at the different organ functions and how they all work together. And instead of going to a specific specialist for a specific thing, to looking at, okay, well, how is that impacting everything in my body? And so making sure I'm looking at everything that's going on. Yeah, there may be one specific breakdown, but that specific breakdown is going to impact multiple other areas of your body. And so how are these things all working together? And that's the biggest piece of what I try to bring through my podcast is how are all of these things working together to help us get better? Because it's not as easy and not as simple as just go eat more of this food right here because it's a superfood and it'll take care of everything else. There's not a pill out there that's going to help your health all by itself, all areas of your health. Is there a pill that's going to help you in a specific area, impact and improve and maybe get you on the right track? Yeah, there's multiple different things for that. But many of the doctors that I've had on and talked to about their specific area of expertise, I don't know one of them that has said, go get on this and stay on it the rest of your life. They've all said, use it as a tool to improve and get back to where now I can handle it again on my own without that. That's what we should be looking at medicine for, not for, I need to be on that the rest of my life. And there's very few, very, very, very few things when it comes to medicine and medication that anybody needs to be on for the rest of their life. And it's the vast majority of people are, it's nothing out there that they need to be on the rest of their life. Are there people that have specific issues that, yes, absolutely. And I acknowledge those things, but they're for the very small minority of people. Most of us, when we have a doctor that puts us on a medication that they say you're going to be on this the rest of your life, most of it's because they don't believe that we can do the behavior changes it's going to take to get our body to be back to regulating itself and taking care of itself. And those changes could be any one or a number of the things that I talk about on a regular basis with the experts that I have on, anywhere from sleep, nutrition, gut health, mental health, yoga, fitness, mindset, trauma, dealing with trauma, chronic disease, looking at longevity, testing for all of these things, right? In so many more areas. how we talk about ourselves, how we plan ourselves. There's so much more. Our environment, the exposures that we get to, the toxins, how do we deal with those things? Are we out in nature dealing with nature? Are we getting energy and exposure to the sun to help our body? Because we should be doing that instead of being locked up in a house, in a building that's vacuum sealed basically 24/7, right? Like there's so many pieces of the puzzle that we need to look at when we look at how do we improve the quality of our life as we age. And when we improve the quality of our life in little bits here and there, it starts to compound. And when it compounds, we start to get confidence because we achieved something, we see something, we feel better, we can move better. We maybe get people that acknowledge us and say, "Hey, you look fit, you look better, you look like you're glowing, your skin looks better, you look whatever it is." People that start to say things about us. All of those things build our confidence. And when our confidence is higher, we can go and do the things that we want to do, that make us happy, that we were put here to do and make an impact in people's lives because we're not scared. Sure, there's still scary things to do, absolutely. And there's still doubts that we have about ourselves. And of course, it goes back to mindset, it goes back to the mental health, and it goes back to the nutrition, it goes back to all these things. When we start having doubts about our abilities, not being stuck there and being able to say, okay, I have doubts. That's okay. Everybody has doubts. Everybody has doubts. If somebody tells you that they never have any doubts at all about their body or their life or their situations or what they're able to accomplish, then they're lying to you because everybody has doubts. It's what do you do with it? What do you do with the doubt, right? And so just like with everything else, when you have an injury, what do you do with the injury? That's going to impact how you feel decades later. When you eat wrong in one meal or a celebration or whatever, and you have something that's like poor nutrition, okay, do you stay on that plan or do you change it? Do you have it be do you let that build or do you go back to the healthy stuff that you know, right? You take some time off of fitness or you take some exercise off or you get out of that habit or routine for whatever reason. Could be vacation, could be a great reason. What do you do? Do you let that become the new habit and routine or do you change and get back into, okay, this is what I want to accomplish, really? And I know that I feel better and this works when I'm moving my body on a daily basis. And so I need to bring that back into the fold. And when trauma happens, eh, are we dealing with it? Are we talking to people? Are we, experts? Are we talking to the right people to help us navigate how to process the trauma? Because that's another thing that nobody's ever going to avoid. You cannot avoid trauma in your life. And it can be little t, it can be big T, it can be your little t could be my big T or vice versa. Like there's so many different triggers and so many different things. And how are we dealing with that trauma? And multiple experts have talked about the importance of dealing with it, not squashing it, not ignoring it, because some of the people I've talked to have talked about how trauma is stored in the body. And it shows up as back pain. It shows up as knee pain. It shows up as headaches. It shows up as different things depending on the type of trauma it is, depending on the type of person you are, depending on when you're dealing with it, if you're not dealing with it, what the triggers were. Like there's so many pieces to these puzzles when we look at our health. And to have somebody just say, if you fix your nutrition, you're going to be fine. Or if you start exercising, you're going to take care of everything. Or if you just sleep more, everything's going to be fixed. Like, is that going to help? Sure, absolutely. And are there pieces that can be fixed with those things? Absolutely. but it doesn't fix everything because they all have to work together. And so it shows how important it is when it comes to our body to give it what it needs, treat it properly, take care of it, and then we can look at the quality of our life as we get older. Because the reality is for most of us, the situation that we're in our civilization, the way it's been built and created for us, is that we have several years of school, we have decades where we work, and then there's this time period where we retire and go off and do the things that we want to do, so to speak. But that's at the end of our life. And for most of us, I say us, but for most of the people, because I'm not there yet, but most of the people that are in that age range, especially in the US, especially in Western civilizations, most of those people are unable to do the things that they really would like to do because their health won't allow them to do it. Their body won't allow them to do it. Whether it's because they physically can't maneuver or they can't because of financial expenses when it comes to medications and healthcare, or a combination of the fact that they just can't leave their doctor for long enough because they've got so many different doctor's appointments that they just can't leave. And I know people that fit into all three of those categories, that they want to come do something. They want to go on a trip. They want to go experience. They can financially afford to do it, but they can't leave because they're constantly going to the doctor and they constantly need to be checked for different things that are going on in their life. And getting back to how it's all connected, all the different functions are working together or not working together, right? One breaks down, another breaks down, another breaks down because the log jam of inability that happens. And so it's the teamwork of what's going on in your life inside your body, what you're providing it, how you're handling it, that if you do that well, it doesn't have to be perfect. It won't be perfect. If you just do it well, it will start to show in so many other areas of your life, relationships, work, so many other areas of your life are going to improve. Confidence is going to build. And then you're going to be able to be one of those people that goes and does whatever they want when they retire because they can physically do it, they can emotionally handle it, they can be away from, home base, home, whatever you want to call it, for weeks or months at a time without worrying or having concern about going to the doctor or their healthcare needs or prescriptions or any of those things, and it is absolutely impactful. And I have a doctor friend that I know that told me a story about it. One of his patients went on vacation, had to stop, come back to Texas to get his prescription, and then go back on vacation. In the middle of his vacation, he had to make a trip back to get his prescription because he couldn't get it filled because of what it was. He had to get it filled in Texas because that's what the only place his doctor could get it and send it. And so he had to interrupt his vacation in order to come back, refill his prescription, and then go back. And not only is that obviously a financial and time inconvenience, but I can only imagine how it impacted his family that he was on vacation with, um, emotionally, because that's a piece of that puzzle. It's like, you know, dad or grandpa is so sick, he can't just come and be with us. He has to go back and then come back again. And so the time that you miss and and that's just one example, but there's so many things that, and that medication, by the way, when he that for that doctor was talking about it. It was for a chronic disease, and if it was a disease that absolutely is 100% behavior related. So it wasn't something that was, more of an acute issue with any kind of bodily function or anything. It was behavior that led him into the place where he needed that. And that's the biggest piece of all the people that I talk to. I think the two biggest things that they share that have in common, no matter what their expertise is, in what area of health, what area of mindset, what area of mental health, whatever you want to talk about, whoever I've talked to, the two biggest things that come together and that they share is you don't want to try and be perfect because you can't be, right? And then the behavior is what gets us where we are, right? And so how we handle our inability to be perfect in the behaviors that we created in our routine work together to create who you are right now. As you're listening to this, that's who you are right now, is the behaviors that you've done, the environment you've been exposed to has created the person that you are right now. And that person, as that other experts I've talked to, that person can change and become somebody different. The cells, the body can regenerate, can heal. You're not just on this slide going downhill and gaining speed, and at the bottom of the slide is death, and you're just heading there. Are we all moving towards the end of life? Absolutely, because that's 100% how it works. You're born and then you move towards death. It's how do we act? How does our body, how does our life, what's our quality? Those are the things I'm after, that I'm trying to help people with. Because if we can help improve those things along the journey becomes fun, becomes more enjoyable. We're able to do more things. We're able to experience more things. And that's where life can really get, you can really get the most out of it. And that's what this is all about. It's not about just living longer, just to live longer. It's about what can we experience? How can we grow? How can we impact people? How can we share? And it's far easier to do that when we have all these other problems we're dealing with and we don't have to worry about our health. Because I'd rather that. I'd rather not be worried about my health and be worried about all these other things that are really in most of the time they're trivial things that we have to think about. They're are they important? Sure, absolutely. But most of the time they're trivial. And so, it comes down to like, where do you want to eat tonight? You want to go out to eat? Where do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. There's so many options. Okay. It's a decision we got to make, all that kind of stuff. If your decision is, where do you want to eat tonight? I have to eat this specific type of food because of my diet, my health, right? Or I have to eat at this specific time because of my medications, right? And, I mean, and when I'm recording this, it's the end of 2025. One of my favorite movies, we watched it. I've watched it a couple times already this year, Christmas Vacation. And one of the things that sticks out in my head from a health standpoint is the scene where they're leaving the house to go shopping. Clark is up in the attic and stuck up there, and they're leaving the house. And Ellen says, oh, what about Clark? And her dad says, oh, he'll come. You've got another car. I've got to get some food. I've got to take my back pill. Like when we're regimented based on that piece of our health, it has very negative impacts on our life. We may not see them initially, but they grow and become bigger and bigger and bigger as we age. And I'd rather just not deal with that stuff when I get older. And the best way to not deal with that stuff when you get older is to do the things now that sets you up for better health and better quality of life in the future. And you can absolutely, I've talked to so many different experts in so many different areas of our health and our fitness and our exercise and our nutrition and sleep and mindset. And you absolutely can start today and start making changes that will improve the quality of your life. It doesn't matter what your starting point is, right? It doesn't matter what your starting point is. It doesn't matter how far your journey looks to be in the future. It doesn't matter. So don't give up because you can still get to where you want to be. You can still get a much better quality of life than you would have if you don't make any changes at all. Because small little increment changes now might be just a 1 degree change, a small little increase now. If you continue that into the future, that becomes a huge change in the future if you continue that, right? Because 1% every day, if you continue to change 1% every day, it's not the same 1%. You're stacking that. And so that compounding effect, that doubling effect, whatever you want to say, making those changes makes huge radical changes year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And that's the bigger piece of the puzzle is it's hard to see ourselves down that far, right? It's hard to see what's the future's going to bring. And I'm not trying to get you to look in there, and I definitely don't want you to say, my 10-year goal is to be here. And so that's all I'm ever focused on because there's so many other little things along the way, and you'll miss a lot along the way if that's the only thing you're looking at. It's good to have that goal and be able to say, I want to do this in 5 years or 10 years, right? It's good to have that goal and be able to say, okay, but what are the things I got to put in place to be able to get me to the point where I can do those things? Because otherwise, if you don't do those things along the way, in 2 years or 4 years, you're going to look at that goal and go, let's put it out another 4 years. Let's make it the new 10-year goal, which effectively becomes a 14-year goal from today, right? And so making sure that you've got the little things in place that are going to address your sleep, your movement, your nutrition, your mindset, your mental health, right? All of these things, they're all huge, critical, important pieces. And I've talked to so many experts, and there's so many episodes that are packed with great tips and information. And so I just want to say thank you for being on this journey with me. I'm over 350 episodes into this that started as really honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. And you might still say I have no idea what I'm doing. And I haven't made a penny off of the podcast. I try to bring sponsors in to help with different pieces of the puzzle, and I'm thankful for a lot of times the sponsors are more of a handshake. Hey, can you do this for me? I'll put you on the podcast and try and get you some exposure. So there's not I haven't made money off of this. This has strictly been 100%. Let's bring people knowledge. Let's help people get better. And I'm committed to continuing to do that. And at 350 episodes in, I love doing this. I love bringing this information to people. I'm excited about the things that I've got coming and where I see this podcast helping people in the future and growing in the future because I'm excited to see the shifting that's happening with people's mindsets and with people's thoughts when it comes to nutrition and health and fitness and sleep and mental health and mindset. In all of these areas, I'm super excited that we seem to be, as a country and as the world, we seem to be gravitating towards more of a natural mindset, more of a this is where we need to be. This is the healthier side of things. It's not just work until you can't anymore and try and win with having the most toys. Because the person with the most toys still dies and can't take them with them. And if that's what you're focused on, hey, great, fine. That's what you're focused on. But if you're doing that and sacrificing your health, guess what? You're giving away time. You're giving away time. And I'd much rather have the time to be able to spend with people and experience things with people than have the toys and not be able to use them because I didn't take care of my body. So that's sort of my own personal take on why I look at my health and why I've started, and I'm going to start talking about this a little bit as we go through this year, the different things that I'm changing, even though I've done all these massive things in my life over the past 8 to 9 years with my nutrition and not drinking alcohol anymore. And, all the different things that I've done that have helped me improve to this point. Now I'm taking even bigger steps over the last month or so and looking at different things. And so I'm going to start bringing some of those things to you through my Life Lesson Friday episodes and through some other special episodes that I have planned for this coming year to help people know that, okay, there's so much to this puzzle, sure. And there's so many things to do. You don't have to do them all at once. You do one little thing at a time, make a change, and then go, okay, what's the next thing? In that time period that you say, what's the next thing? That could be 2 months, that could be 6 months, that could be 5 years before you decide, okay, it's time to take the next thing, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's on their own journey, doing their own thing. And, when I went from I went from, okay, I'm going to change my nutrition. And so I went vegetarian for 6 months first. I said, okay, let's try vegetarian and see what happens. And I started to feel better and I started to recover better and I started to have things improve in my health, in my life. And I said, okay, well, it's been 6 months. Now I'm going to try and be 100% vegan, 100% plant-based. And so I've done that now. I'm coming up in the next couple of days. I'm going to hit, I think it's 8 years. No, 9 years. It'll be 9 years that I'll be vegan. Okay. And so I was vegan for 2 years and then decided I'm going to stop drinking alcohol. And so I haven't had anything alcohol wise in years. And I used to be a member of a wine club, right? I've got a bar in my house that still has alcohol in it from when I stopped drinking it's just sitting there. Um, so these are things that I enjoyed, but looking at my life and health said, these things are no longer going to play a part in my life because I have goals and dreams for what I want my body and my ability to be able to do when I'm in the future. And if I don't take care of my body and myself now, I'm not going to be able to do those things in the future because it's easy to see the trend and track of what the normal American diet and the normal American lifestyle provides. It's easy to see that because you can just go to any restaurant, go to any mall, go to any outdoor area where a lot of people are gathering and look, and you can see what that looks like by looking at other people and what their abilities are, what their feelings are, how they interact with people, all of those things. So making those changes, it doesn't have to be big changes every day. Make one change and stick to it for a while. See how it feels. Then make another change. And guess what? If you make a change and you didn't like it, or it didn't work, or because there was a year, a little over a year, where I was completely raw vegan, where I didn't eat anything that was cooked for over a year. And so, did I feel better? Sure. Did I lose a little bit of weight because there was a little bit of fat loss? Yeah, I did. I was a little bit less than I am now. I went back to eating cooked food for a couple of reasons. One was convenience factor. Nobody else in my family was doing it. Nobody else in my household was doing it. So it was a little difficult. So there was a convenience factor. Two, eh, it impacted my health, but I don't know that it made that much of a difference to be something that I wanted to fight that inconvenience and fight that piece of it. And so I went back to eating. I'm still 100% vegan. I'm still 100% plant-based. And there's certain ways that avoid cooking. Obviously, no deep fried, no any of that kind of stuff, right? Um, but I went back to it, right? And so just because it makes you feel better, makes you healthier, doesn't mean it's something you have to stick to. If it just doesn't work for you, right? There's other options and there's other ways and there's other things to do. I would say I'm more than 70% raw, right? So I'm super high compared to the normal population, but it's something that I changed and came back, right? So that's definitely something that is out there and you're able to do. And it's don't be so harsh. Again, the perfection thing, right? Don't be so harsh on yourself. But there are ways to improve. There are ways to make changes. There's when it comes to like fitness and movement, there's so many different things to try and so many different ways to do it. And so just because you may read an article or see a research study that says, hey, this exercise is the absolute best at fat burning, and you've got fat to burn, but you don't like that exercise. Don't do that exercise, right? Just because it's the absolute best doesn't mean the other ones still don't work, because the other ones still work, right? Like, do the thing that you're comfortable with, do the thing that you're capable of doing, do the thing that makes you happy when you do it. Don't do the stuff that it's super hard to do, right? Like, don't do the stuff that frustrates you. So, and smoothies are a great way to get nutrients and a great way to get fruits and right? Like they're a great way to do all that stuff. But if you can't take cold temperatures, right? Like, and I know people like this that have very sensitive teeth and like things that are super cold, are really hard to do, then don't do smoothies, right? Get your nutrients in other ways because there's plenty of other ways. Okay. So again, don't get stuck on the perfection piece of it. Don't get stuck on this is the only way to do it because there's nobody is perfect and there's so many other ways to do it. And just because you do something and it works, but it doesn't really work for you, you can always come back to another thing. The biggest piece is the behavior changes. Start making those behavior changes. Start moving yourself as we begin this next year. Whenever you listen to this, begin your next day. Because ultimately, as so many people have said, and I've said earlier today, but so many of the experts I've talked to have said, you can always start to make changes now. There's not a point until you die, there's not a point that you cannot improve on what you have right now. So it's always out there. This has been a recap episode. from people I've talked to in 2025. There's some hugely great episodes. I highly encourage you to go back and look through those if you haven't heard some of them. And search for what you're looking for, right? The topic that you're looking for. I'm super grateful for all of you that are listening and watching and following along and supporting me because y'all are who I'm doing it for. If I can impact one person with every episode, that's all that matters to me is that there's somebody out there that needed to hear each and every episode. And when that person hears it and starts their journey or continues their journey because they're about to stop, or that impact that it makes in their life, that's all that I'm after with this. Is that one person who absolutely is stuck and just can't see their way to the next step. Like my whole goal is helping you take that one step and get that journey back on track. Um, so I applaud you for being that person to take that next step. And so when you hear this and when you see this and when you hear something on my podcast that you appreciate and you like, please share it with somebody else that you know is struggling with the same thing. Because the other thing that I've talked to so many people about, both that I've interviewed as experts, but also just in my daily life and all the people I talk to and all the people I come in contact with, there's a lot of people struggling with the same thing that you're struggling with. We're all different. We all have different needs in some form or fashion with our body and with our life and with our, with everything going on. But we're all struggling with things. And there's other people out there struggling with the same thing that you're struggling with. And be the person that makes an impact in their life by sharing something, whether it's my episode or my podcast episodes or somebody else's podcast or somebody else's anything or a book that you read. Be the person that shares with other people the things that make an impact in your life. Because if it made an impact in your life, it's probably going to make an impact in their life. And then that's how we can all continue to improve and grow and help each other. And the whole community rises. The whole community gets better. And so that's the whole purpose of what I'm doing. I'm excited for this next year coming up. I'm excited to bring you more experts and dive deeper into all these areas of health. And again, I want to thank you for being a listener and for following along and supporting what I'm doing to help support all of you.